Good morning, welcome to Breakfast with Charlie State and Naga Manchetti.
Our headlines today. Face coverings could become mandatory in shops in England as the Prime Minister says the balance of scientific opinion has shifted.
Disadvantaged GCSE and A-level students in England may miss out on the results they deserve after exams were cancelled.
Wales sees the further easing of lockdown restrictions today with the reopening of some tourist accommodation.
Good morning. In sport, frustration for England's cricketers. They're under pressure in the first test as West Indies take a healthy lead into the second innings.
And as the equestrian sport of eventing gets underway this weekend for the first time since lockdown, we are behind the scenes at the Barbary Horse Trials.
And if you're planning to get out and about this weekend, I've got good news for you because it looks generally dry for us this weekend. There'll be some spells of sunshine and it should be getting a bit warmer as well.
Good morning. It's Saturday, the 11th of July. Our top story today. Tougher rules on wearing face coverings could be on the way in England after the Prime Minister said a stricter approach may help stop the spread of coronavirus.
Now, it's already mandatory to wear a face covering in shops in Scotland. Ministers are considering whether to follow suit now in England. The government had previously said the scientific evidence around wearing masks in public is weak. John McManus has more.
Could this be the face of your future shopping trip in England? Well, it's unlikely that you'll bump into the Prime Minister when you pick up your groceries, but Boris Johnson's government is considering whether to make the wearing of face coverings mandatory in shops. At an event on Friday filmed at Downing Street, the Prime Minister dropped a very large hint.
We're looking at ways of making sure that people really do have face coverings in shops. The balance of scientific opinion seems to have shifted more in favour of them than it was, and we're very keen to follow that.
Face coverings have been compulsory in Scotland shops since yesterday, but one expert has cautioned that they are not a panacea.
Social distancing and good hygiene practices are paramount, and we need to emphasise that. What we don't want is a situation where people think that because they wear a face mask, somehow they can relax.
In a move welcomed by swimmers, outdoor pools in England will reopen from today, though only 4 out of more than 100 will do so. The industry body Swim England has warned that a third of Lidos will remain closed this year because it's not financially viable for them to open, and it's questioned the lack of notice.
I think we've always said that it takes a minimum of 2 weeks to bring a pool back into commission once it's been out for so long. There's a lot of work to do that, not only bringing your staff off furlough for a kick-off, but also to get the pool temperature up, to get the water microbiology right, to get the dosing right, and just to get all the COVID protections in place.
In response, the government said that while it recognised that not every business could reopen on the permitted dates, its approach was guided at all times by medical and scientific advice. As some swimmers take the plunge again today, it's a sign of a return to some kind of normality, whatever the government's final decision on face masks. John McManus, BBC News.
Let's speak now to our political correspondent, Leila Nathu, joining us. So, Leila, I mean, there has been so much talk for so long about face coverings and what policy the government should have on it. Where are we now?
Well, as you say, this is something that has been bubbling up periodically throughout the pandemic. The views on face masks have changed. If you cast your mind back a few months, there was messaging from ministers saying that, look, face masks might encourage people to be lax on other measures, for example, hand washing, social distancing. Then there was disputing of the science around how effective they are at actually stopping transmission of the virus. Remember, wearing a mask is about protecting others from you rather than you being protected from others. Then you heard Boris Johnson during the lockdown saying that, look, face coverings could be a useful tool when lockdown was lifted to give people confidence to go back out there. And now we are at the point where lockdown in England has been lifted. And that is what you are now hearing from the Prime Minister, that this could be a way of encouraging people really to get back out there. You've been Boris Johnson being pictured for the first time wearing a face covering, unlike just a couple of days ago, the Chancellor Rishi Sunak, when he was out in a restaurant in London for a photo shoot. So I think, you know, the message now from government is very clear that given that most sectors of the economy are now reopening, face coverings in enclosed public places could be a useful way of giving people the confidence to get back out there in public and engaging with the wider economy.
Layla, for the moment, thank you.
MPs have warned that young people in England risk missing out on the grades they deserve after exams were cancelled because of the coronavirus.
A system of predicted grades is being used instead, but the Education Committee says it risks inaccuracy and bias against pupils from less affluent groups and ethnic minority backgrounds. Dan Johnson has this report.
While some pupils may be back in school, nobody is doing exams this summer. Instead, grades will be given by teachers based on expected performance, taking into account mock exam results and coursework. Grades are then standardised across England by the regulator Ofqual. That ensures grades are roughly in line with previous years, but Parliament's Education Committee warns the system could be unfair and may discriminate against some pupils, echoing other concerns.
We all have underlying ideas about how certain groups will perform, what we expect of them. And it's very difficult for individuals to get away from that kind of thinking. That is an inherent part of any system that relies on people making an assessment of somebody's ability. And we know teachers very often will underpredict poorer students and think that they will do worse than how they actually end up doing on exams.
Committee Chair Robert Halfon said he recognised the enormous effort made to award grades this summer, but called for the process to be more transparent. He likened the appeals system to the Wild West and said it would favour the well-heeled and sharp-elbowed. Ofqual told us its standardisation process was designed so pupils weren't disadvantaged. Any who are unhappy with the grade they're awarded can opt to sit an exam in the autumn. Dan Johnson, BBC News.
Lockdown restrictions are being eased in Wales from today as the nation's hospitality, leisure and tourism industries begin to reopen over the next 3 weeks.
Holidaymakers can now visit self-contained accommodation with en-suite facilities. Here's more from our Wales correspondent, Thomas Morgan.
In the middle of July, Oxwich Bay on the Gower Peninsula should be packed with barbecues, swimmers and those just wanting to get some of that famous Welsh tan. But tourism has been put on hold due to coronavirus. From today, though, the tides are beginning to change as self-contained accommodation opens across Wales. Because of its unique location overlooking the sea, the Oxwich Bay Hotel is usually fully booked with weddings during the summer months.
It has been a big task. I think we wanted to be sure that we were hitting everything we needed to hit with the safety measures, both for staff and customers.
With restaurants and gatherings still off the menu for now, getting rooms ready for overnight guests will have to do.
We're really excited, actually. Hospitality is all about customers, so we're so excited to be able to welcome people back. It'll be really nice to see them, albeit at a little bit more of a distance than usual.
Today marks the start of a phased reopening of a number of different businesses across Wales. On Monday, it'll be the turn of outdoor hospitalities to reopen, as well as hair salons for those in much need of a trim. The following week, it'll be playgrounds, and after that, it'll be campsites, museums and cinemas. All just in time for the summer holidays to begin. Thomas Morgan, BBC News, on the Gower Peninsula.
The United States has recorded almost 64,000 new coronavirus cases in the past 24 hours. This is according to Johns Hopkins University. 774 people died.
The US state of Florida is badly hit. It's reported its second highest daily rise in coronavirus cases as Disney prepares to reopen its flagship theme park in Orlando. Our correspondent David Willis has this report.
It's known as the happiest place on earth, and it's reopening later today in a state where the number of new coronavirus cases is off the charts. Footage released by Disney shows the health and safety measures the company plans to adopt at its park in Florida. As well as taking people's temperatures, everyone will be required to wear a mask. But whilst visitors and staff can practice social distancing, it's more difficult when it comes to the theme park's characters. Hence, the union representing the people who play the part of Mickey and Minnie say its members won't be taking part in the reopening. Since the month began, Florida has consistently reported more new daily cases of the coronavirus than any European country reported at the height of their outbreaks. Across the state, dozens of hospitals have said their intensive care units are already full. Arriving in the Sunshine State last night for a fundraising event, President Trump continues to insist the virus is under control. He blames the record number of coronavirus cases on an increase in testing. But it's not only Florida that's seen a sharp rise in infections. In the west of the country, the temperature is rising, and so too the number of coronavirus cases. Arizona is the new hotspot, not only for America, but the rest of the world. When Arizona's governor lifted the state's stay-at-home order, people partied pre-pandemic style. Now the state is shutting down again, yet still people there are queuing in long lines for testing and often waiting many days for the results. Although Disney insists its theme park will be safe, medical experts say even screaming out loud on a roller coaster could heighten the spread of the coronavirus. David Willis, BBC News, Los Angeles.
Lawyers for Ghislaine Maxwell, the former girlfriend of the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, have argued that she should be released on bail because of the risk of contracting coronavirus in prison. She was arrested on the 2nd of July and is accused of assisting Epstein's abuse of minors. Her lawyers say she vigorously denies the charges.
President Trump has commuted the prison sentence of his friend and former advisor Roger Stone. Stone was convicted of lying to Congress, obstruction and witness tampering in relation to the investigation into Russian meddling in the 2016 presidential election. He was due to begin a 40-month jail term.
Time now is 11 minutes past 6. Kat's going to have the sport a little later. Darren's going to have the weather for us. But we should take a look at the front pages and start with the Telegraph. Several front pages, in fact, reporting the government might make face coverings compulsory in shops in England. The Telegraph has a photo of Boris Johnson wearing a bright blue face covering on a visit to his Uxbridge constituency yesterday. Now, the paper says it's the first time he's been pictured wearing one in public.
The Times leads on the same story. It says the Prime Minister is poised to make the change after mounting evidence suggests masks can slow the spread of coronavirus.
Meanwhile, The Guardian says the government is planning what it describes as a radical and politically risky reorganisation of the NHS in England.
Cheers is the headline of the South Wales Echo as the paper reports that pubs, cafes and restaurants in Wales can reopen indoors in Wales from the 3rd of August if coronavirus cases continue to fall.
Do you want to talk about this cycling story?
Yeah, well,
in the Telegraph.
As we know, so many people are cycling who didn't before, dug out their bikes, but it has led to a shortage, reported Telegraph.
Yeah, some bike shops apparently have been told that they might have to wait until November to get new stock as people are looking for alternatives to public transport during, of course, the pandemic. Loads of stores, apparently, buyers looking at second-hand models. You're a keen cyclist, yeah. Charlie. You've been cycling. Have you been cycling more during lockdown?
And I know from talking to my local cycle shop that it is absolutely true. They cannot get new bicycle stock to sell because so many people have been buying them and they're just not coming through.
Clicks on later, all about e-bikes. Have you ever thought about an e-bike, an electric bike?
I've been on one, and I think that it's a brilliant idea. Listen, I'm not the oracle on all things cycling, but I think if you are reluctant to cycle and maybe worried about the fitness side of it, an e-bike it's a brilliant solution.
You still move. I have a friend who has an e-bike, and she loves the fact that she says, I don't look like one of those really, fit, lycra-clad cyclists, but it does amuse her, because you do have to still put some effort in. It does amuse her when she's going up a hill, and hers doesn't look like an e-bike, and she just goes straight up, and then everyone's just, how on earth are you doing that?
Cycling stories.
That satisfaction.
I'm quite interested in that this morning. If you are one of those people who maybe is literally, I don't know, as an adult, has got on a bike for the first time during the pandemic, it'd be quite interesting to hear your stories this morning.
Yeah, really would. Get in touch the usual way. Got anything else?
Yeah, well, just this little one here. I mean, we're talking about cycling there. This is French nutritionists have come up with the ideal menu to stop motorists nodding off at the wheel. The bit they've worked out, which I think everybody knows, that is a heavy meal is going to make you more likely to nod off, like alcohol. So I'll just go through. Okay. Hamburger and chips, cheese, chocolate cake, they will increase the chances of a road accident. And the Insurers Federation Insurance Prevention, this is a French organisation, have come up with a perfect meal. The optimised meal includes a starter. Do you want to take notes here? A starter of radishes and cucumber, followed by white fish and lentils for the main course, and a kiwi.
Who eats that when they're driving?
With a kiwi with a chunk of 90% dark chocolate for dessert, all washed down with water. There you go. That is the ideal menu. Eat that.
The dark chocolate.
It sounds very nice, actually.
The dark chocolate, yeah, but not for while you're driving.
No, it's not for while you're driving. It's before. I think you would struggle with the white fish and lentils while you're going along.
So that's the meal to have before you take a long journey.
When you stop off at the road services.
Because the road services have those.
Yeah, I don't want to say road service. What's the word?
Motorway
the motorway service station, Darren. I forgot the word for the place you stop at when you're on the motorway then. There's a bad sign, isn't there? I need to get back on my bike.
Darren, what would you eat?
It's not a good sign.
What would you eat to keep you awake while driving?
Well, I was told that an apple is a good thing to eat that keeps you awake if you've got an early drive, as I did this morning, although I didn't have time for an apple, or a late drive at night. An apple, I don't know whether that's true, Naga. I don't know whether you've heard of that.
You'd have to cut it into chunks, though, wouldn't you? Because it might not be practical to hold an apple, especially if it's juicy and dry.
Yes, that's true. That's true. I hadn't thought of that, Naga, but well
there you go.
Spotted. Yeah,
Glad
thank
to
you.
help.
Yeah.
Morning.
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.